What's up, people? Welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit. Beth, well, I'm trying to steer away from my usual intro to the podcasts by saying different things in the beginning of every episode. So it throws me off guard sometimes. So that's
which is one of the reasons why I didn't actually want to do the intro for him, because I thought he's running out of ideas. So
because you realize how hard it is to not say the same thing you say every week. I mean, I don't just say that on the biscuit; I say it on the You Suck stuff as well. Obviously, Shane is joining me again. This is part of our open studio sessions. We've had a great day so far.
Been busy.
A learning lesson is let's do these shows every hour and a half, not every hour, because that gives me time to eat and to drink and to go to the toilet and stuff like that. Because it's I think it's having a break. Joining us today is Beth Abbott. Beth, me and her started talking. We were going to do shared biscuits a while ago, but plans changed. But I still wanted to get you on the show because I think you got an amazing story. Thank you very much for joining us on the biscuit.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it. It's been wanting to come on, so yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it really is good because you have got a great story. Because I mean, I'll let you tell it, because what you've done is you've changed, you flipped your cards, haven't you? You've from one situation to another great one where you can inspire other people, right?
Yeah, that's the aim. Definitely, I think if you can turn any negative situation into a positive one, then it makes it all kind of worthwhile in the long run. The bad times maybe, so yeah, it's good.
And I think that the clue there is in that we were going to do shared biscuits, because a lot of what you're talking about is about addiction and about the struggles that you've had. But you also read me, you sent me some audio versions of your poems, which I listened to, and they were so touching. They were so. I think the word I used was naked and vulnerable, and that's I think that's true, because you're very, very honest in your work, and I think it's very touching.
Well, actually, this week, because I've performed on stages and done lots of different things, but I've never done a video of myself and left myself vulnerable like that. And I actually uploaded one about depression this week, and my lovely friends on Facebook and that, I got a lot of really good feedback. So moving forward, I think I'm going to try and do a few more of them, because I think sometimes if you show a little bit of vulnerability in yourself, then people might follow and find you a bit more sincere when you are actually trying to help people.
Yeah, it is important, because you lead the way. You're leading the way, and you're saying it's okay. And so we were talking about this earlier. Me and Shane, we had the guys from Climbing Out, and we were talking about the situations that, people that dealt with trauma and go out there and do great things and go on courses and learn how to be, I wouldn't say better people, because you guys are great as it is, but learn how to cope with life in a better way. And you're talking about the stigma behind mental health, weren't you, Shane? And so, like, I mean, mainly in men, but I mean, like, mental health and drug abuse, domestic abuse, whether it's people that are struggling with anxiety, anything like this, you need to be able to just talk about these things freely and vulnerably without having to feel like you're going to get attacked, right?
I think that's true, and I think obviously this year's just been completely and utterly surreal, and we don't want to go down the route talking all about that, but people that might have been floating along nicely before have got a lot more symptoms that they might not notice, because I think if you keep yourself busy all the time, then you don't know, you're kind of like running away from whatever stuff you might have on in your head. So when the whole world kind of comes to a halt, all of a sudden there's all these thoughts that come to the forefront of your mind, and it's like, whoa, where did all this come from? So and like you said, with men as well, it's more difficult for them sometimes to express how they feel. I mean, a dear friend of mine a couple of months ago, unfortunately, he took his own life, and I would like to do everything that I can, just to get other people to try and speak and prevent that from happening, because
I'm a massive advocate for that. I'm a huge advocate for getting blokes to come out their shell and to just say what they're feeling and what they're thinking, because it matters. And the really frustrating thing is although it's hard, it's treatable. It's all treatable, and it's all temporary, and it's manageable, and you can get help, and there is help out there. You just got to open your mouth and speak. And I understand from first-hand experience why that's so hard, but it shouldn't be, should it? Do you know what I mean?
It must stem back from the hunter-gatherer. You know, we're meant to be the guys that go out and get the, or to be the mechanic or the builder or the guy. You know, we've had this discussion before, and I've always been, like you said, I've never been one of those blokes. I've never been a bloke. I'll never ever have anyone call me a bloke because I'm not one of these guys that, look at the legs on that, or oh yeah, I'm going to get absolutely trashed later. You know, I'm not one of those guys. I can't hang around with people. I can adapt, but in that environment, it can be quite hard for you to talk about your feelings, which is why I always say when people are struggling, they are going through difficult times, whether they're a bloke, whether they're a female, whether they're in whatever situation, music, poetry, art, podcasts, these kind of things are perfect to write down your feelings, and it's kind of therapy, right?
Yeah, life changing. And as well, what a lot of people don't realise is that, well, they might realise, but I'd say 99% of the people that have addiction problems or things like they've tried to medicate themselves from the depression or anxiety or whatever it is that they're feeling, and then it becomes a habit. So there's always tends to be some underlying issues. So now, obviously, I'm not drinking. You can actually deal with all them things that was underlying, and then it's like unraveling all these different pieces to a puzzle. But it's the alpha male thing, isn't it, like you said? Or there's a lot of pressure if you're the breadwinner, and then all of a sudden you're losing your job, and like it is temporary, but at the time when you're in that hole, it doesn't feel like it's temporary. So I can understand it as well.
What's harder, not drinking whilst you're out of lockdown or while you're in lockdown?
Well, do you know what I've said to a few of my friends? I'm so grateful that I went into recovery before all this happened this year, because I don't think I would have survived this at all, because it's a progressive disease. You would have been locked away. Like, it's a rubbish for everyone, but if you're in the midst of addiction, my darkest day in recovery will never be as dark as my dark days in active addiction, because it's really hard to explain. So I don't treat what people are doing it used as a coping mechanism, but in the long run, like I've seen this thing before, and it said drinking is almost like stealing a little bit of happiness from tomorrow. So your hangover that you're going to feel and stuff. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not just because I'm in recovery, I'm not like anti-drink, because unfortunately it had a sinister effect on me. But some people, it doesn't do that, and I understand why people have a few drinks to unwind at the end of the week.
Yeah,
life can be hard, but if you have got a substance misuse, then it's a completely different ball game.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel that with regards to lockdown. I mean, Al, you pretty much worked through lockdown, I think, more or less, and I've certainly worked through lockdown, and I think that if I didn't work, I don't know, I'd been climbing the walls, because that's my release. That's what I do. I bury my head into my work, and that's how I deal with stuff. So I've been quite fortunate I've had that, but I know that people that might have addictions and stuff like that, the help and the support that's out there that might be trying to rely on or trying to reach out to are not there because it's shut, or
especially
it's not
for mental health.
Especially for mental health. And so they just start spiraling. And I can see how that can happen. But hopefully, obviously, there's a lot of initiatives like the climbing out and yourself and stuff like that are all sort of and share, are all starting to sort of stand up and pick up that slack, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What happened with you then? With you, obviously you said you went into recovery. Where does poetry come into this for you? Where's the end point for poetry for you?
I've always done poetry. I used to perform it to the school kids in the playground, but make up songs and stuff. Like I've always. They had to listen whether I liked it or not. I'm going to be showing some poetry to you. I've always. I was not in junior school, but in senior school, I was really naughty. I always got put in the inclusion unit, and I used to just write the teacher's phones and to let me do what I was doing. But I've always loved it. I've always used it as a release. I've wrote about it with lots of different things that have happened in my life and stuff like that. So it's always really helped me. And like I wrote a poem actually the other day, and it says, I always had this dream to do this business, and I used to talk to people about it, like out my face in kitchens in the morning, drunk, talking about all these ideas, and no one takes you seriously because you just look like a bit of a joke talking about all this stuff. But now, obviously, people are taking me a little bit more seriously now because I'm actually doing these things. But just and talking about stuff and putting your feelings down on paper has also been another big thing that's saved me. Like when I did rehab, I took a poetry book all in rehab and stuff. So there's some really dark stuff, but there's some really positive stuff as well. So
yeah,
it's good. It's good to look back on it. There's a little bit like I suppose, like a diary.
That's your progress, though, isn't it? You know, because out of the darkness comes what you do now. It's necessary. It's necessary for people to see your journey. I mean, like I mean, that's the best thing about poetry, isn't it? You're not writing it for anybody else. You're writing it for you, right? You're expressing yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, and a lot of my poetry is quite relatable. Sometimes there's the odd swear word here and there, and it's not like roses are red, violets blue. I started to try and think I'm writing what other people thinking and feeling as well as myself, just so it can be a little bit more relatable as well. Because I used to run it as a business and go into schools and years ago and do it about homelessness, and it was always the kid that would be deemed as kind of kid that he was going to do the work, and he'd come do the best. Rap it instead. But
can I just say we're having a few connection problems. I don't know if you're on the Wi-Fi, but if you're not on the Wi-Fi, do you want to try like 4G instead or something? Just to see if we get a better connection. Is that all right? This might make it a bit better. I feel like we're missing important points. Do you know what I mean?
Hello?
Are you back?
Yeah.
Hello.
Is that better?
Yeah, that looks a lot better actually. I feel like we were missing important points to what you were saying.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I used to run it as a business and talk about homelessness because I used to work for an organisation called St Basil's that works with young homeless people, the 16 to 25. I was saying that it was the naughtiest kid in the class that you'd deem them as the Jack the Lad kind of kid that would come up and do the best kind of poetry, just rap it and do it the best, because I think when you speak to people on the level with a little bit of respect and, you know, just say, look, I've been there, mate, I understand why you're acting this way. They're just all these barriers kind of melt down a little bit because they realise that you're not there to have a go at them.
I think it was, it was Kel that we just spoken to from Climbing Out. Actually, it says that when you start having fun, you start having confidence. When you got confidence, you can do whatever you like, you know. And I think fun is one of the most important aspects to bringing yourself out. You know, coming out of your shell a bit. You know, because once your barriers are down, like you said, you know, you do release those barriers. That's when the real you can come out, right? But it must be really hard when you are somewhere like rehab, I guess. I've never been to rehab, but I can just imagine it, you know, being quite isolating, I guess. What's it like?
I had to go to rehab twice. I went to a residential one, but I wasn't quite ready, I don't think, at the time. I really missed my daughter. And unfortunately, it might sound like quite a bad thing to have to say, but you actually have to literally reach your utter rock bottom before you actually at a point where you're get help. And after I come out of rehab the first time, I relapsed really badly after 6 weeks. And then I went and did a rehab, which was the daytime one. And I was just so open to it that time. I just listened a lot more. I didn't want it anymore. I just didn't want to live that life. I didn't want to lose my daughter. I didn't want to lose myself. And then it was actually quite beautiful. the bonds that I got with the people in rehab was amazing. We did some great stuff. Scary, because if you've drank since the age of 15, like my alcohol was my best friend before it was my worst enemy. So it's like almost saying goodbye to a toxic relationship with someone. You don't quite want to let it go, but you know it's really bad for you.
Yeah, it's the worst and the best thing for you at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah. We actually had to write a letter that started, hello, darkness, my old friend, and you literally in rehab write a goodbye letter to your addiction, and it's really empowering actually.
One thing which I was seeing quite a pattern with after talking to the Climbing Out guys and you, it's the community aspect. It's the connections and the social side of going through that process, going to these meetings and stuff like that, and going through that process alongside other people, and then actually being so intimate with them about that raw. You know, you can't get much raw than that, can you? You know, like you're sat there and you're laid open for everyone to see. You know, you're there. Everyone's there for the same reason. And I think that that on the outcome of that, like you said, you end up with good friends and stuff like that, and connections that you've made. You know, those bonds are probably unbreakable. You're probably going to have those people for the rest of your life. You know, and I'm not trying to say that going through this process is a good way of making friends, but like, you know, it's but you know, it's in the same breath that you can draw strength from that, can't you? You know.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I was going to the doctors for 5 years before I went into rehab, asking for help, saying I was an alcoholic, I didn't know where to start. And they didn't even know about the rehab unit, which was a stone throw down the road. Now, I'm not slagging.
Wow.
It's a lot of locums. So they put me on vitamin B and thiamine and sent me on my way. Oh, you depressed me, like, it's just because you're drinking. And I was screaming out for help. But I knew what I was doing wasn't right. And I didn't know that there was an actual recovery community. And you hear about AA, and I didn't know about NA, but you hear about AA, but I just thought it was like an American thing that they're doing films. I didn't think that there was an actual recovery community that was on my doorstep, and these meetings happened like weekly and all this stuff, and it blew my mind. I didn't find out about it until I actually went into rehab. And then some of the people that are in recovery are just the nicest, most genuine people in the world. They just want the best for you. You know, there's no like, they're not trying to, you know, outdo you. It's not a competition. They genuinely want the kind of best for you. And I think a lot of people actually who are in active addiction probably don't know that there's a community out there, because I've had the same friends since I was 15, and they all like a drink and that. I'm not judging them, that they was an addict like how I was, but if all your friends every Friday and that like to go to the pub like most people do, because you know you want to unwind, it's like, it's not saying goodbye to the drink, it's saying goodbye to your whole lifestyle. It's like, who am I going to hang around with now? And then like, I'm just going to be on my couch drinking water.
Yeah, it is. It's huge. You know, it's really hard because I mean, when I started doing the keto thing, bring back that was a while ago, but like there's so many things you can't eat or drink, and one of them's beer or cider or anything like that. So when you go out or when you go for a meal or anything like that, you can't really do that. I mean, you can drink whiskey, but who's going to sit there drinking whiskey all night? Like, you know, neat whiskey though.
I would have.
But the social aspect to that was painful. But I can't imagine doing it if it was something that felt like oxygen to me. You know, I needed it. So, you know, to anybody that's gone through that, I mean, we were talking about addicts being the nicest people and things like that. Like Max, for example. Max, he's not doing much with the biscuit at the moment. He's stepped away because there's lots going on. But Max is one of the nicest people I've met. Like to speak to, Max is awesome. He's intellectual. He's funny. He's kind.
Articulate. Yeah,
he's an amazing guy, and I hope to see him back on the biscuit soon. But like, you know, you cannot, you know, when you can't stereotype someone as an alcoholic. When TVs and movies and do alcoholics, they always do it the Coronation Street way or the typical sort. But I bet there are people out there that don't even realize they're an alcoholic.
Yeah, there's also people of all walks of life as well. They don't have to be like, you know, the media portrayed alcoholic. I suppose you can get some proper high flying CEOs that are on like 8-figure salaries, and they're in the exact same boat. I don't think that there's no prejudice as far as alcoholism is concerned, is there? Yeah, there's no set rule. Anybody's subject to it. Yeah,
that is it's so true. I'm actually trying to get some funding to do a film to show into the schools and organisations covering that exact subject. How alcohol, like so for example, a woman who wakes up in the morning but she's drinking champagne instead of Glen's vodka. Do you know what I mean? She's still got
funny you should say that. There is a guy that we've actually had on the Biscuit Studios this morning. A guy called Luke Hanley. He's only a young lad. He's only 16, isn't he? 16, 17? Something
16,
like that.
16.
16, is he? Yeah. And he has literally just released. Is it this last year?
Unstable.
Last year, I think it was.
Unstable. It was this year.
Unstable. Yeah. If you go on YouTube, just type in Unstable. He's released a short film about addiction. And I think that might be something you might want to pursue, isn't it? So it might be worth maybe getting in touch with him. He might be able to help.
Yeah, definitely, because I'm not very good at the technical side of things, really, to be fair. So, like, the ideas there, I've been working with some other recovery groups as well, because I was functioning for, like, 10 years. Like, it was only the last 2 years that buckled me, that, like, I was still functioning to a certain degree, but, like, caring less and less and less. But I was a support worker, you see. So, when I first went into rehab, I was like, I don't need... I support other people, but I think a lot of people who are involved in addiction spend their whole life helping other people, so they don't have to look at themselves as well, in a way. So while I was supporting other people, going home, taking all that pressure on, worrying about these young kids and all that stuff, I wasn't actually dealing with all my own stuff. I just bought a drink.
Yeah. But you're trying to help others, and this is why I love what you're doing, because in what way are you trying to help with your poetry? Is it with hold my hand, I'll take you through it, or here are the warning signs, or this is how it ruined my life, followed by example sort of thing?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I want to get I want to get the people that are in recovery involved in coming out into the schools with me as well, telling some of their stories to the kids. So the poetry that I cover in the schools is about addiction, and then I'll get the kids to write their own, well, not kids, the pupils, to write their own versions of it, or in different organisations. So there's like, when I was in because I've come from Birmingham, we'd set up something called Recovery Social as well. So it was a social space where people in recovery could come to on a Friday night and do drama, poetry, all them kinds of things. And then I wanted organically the decisions to be made by other people, what we wanted to do, and maybe put on a production and do them things. And then, like what's happened with most people, we went into lockdown. But that's definitely something that I want to do in the future, because then I think you kind of doing it at both ends. You go into the core of the problem, the kids in the school, where it could stem from, drinking with your friends and doing a bit much. But then you've also got the people who are in recovery, and you're empowering them to be able to do something. So I'm really looking forward to like some of the projects and stuff that we're going to have next year. It's just like most people, everyone's just coping with what's going on at the minute, but there's so much exciting stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to it.
It must feel terrible to have all this great stuff you want to do, but you just can't at the moment. Yeah. I know
it's
we know how that feels.
Yeah, we do. A little bit, just a little bit, So you had great success. I know. What kind of following have you created? Some sort of following? Are there lots of people that keep coming to you for advice, to hear your poetry? Are there people that follow you around on social media, things like
that? A lot of since I've opened myself on my Facebook and just like kind of outed myself that I was in recovery. I kind of did that. I didn't think I'd ever do it. I thought I'd be too embarrassed, but I did it to try and lead the way, and maybe other people might see and follow it in that way. So a few people have messaged me, and I've been able to give them advice as where to go, couple of people have wanted to get involved in the project in the future. But like I just said, it's really frustrating because when you're going back to people and you're like, look, I have got this stuff going on, and you're going to be able to get involved, but at the minute, I can't really give you a date or time. And but people understand, and people have been okay. Like I said, I did that video the other day, and I was really nervous, but I got a lot of really good feedback. I put all my poems on my Facebook page so people can see them, but I'm going to start doing them in the spoken word way now. I think a little bit more.
I mean, people do it. I mean, I remember at the Comic Salopia, Al, if you remember Jamali Maddox, we asked him, what's your advice?
You always bring up Jamali Maddox. Is that's
he's
your
awesome, man. He's awesome.
That's your piece out. That's your Jamali Maddox. We're talking about Jamali Maddox.
But we asked him. He's a comedian, and you know he's gone worldwide. He's been on TV and stuff. And like, we asked him, what's your advice to somebody who's sat, you know, got an idea, or like they want to do something, they want to do music, they want to do poetry, they want to do writing, or do art, you know, whatever. What's your advice to those people to get started? And he said, just do it. It's as simple as that. He said, just do it. He goes, what's the worst? What's going to happen? And I just sort of sat there and I was like, that's a really good point, actually, because there's a lot of anxiety around starting these things. Like I said, you were really nervous about doing your video, and like, you know, you're well versed in the subject you're talking about. You know what you're talking about, and you were nervous. So somebody who's venturing out on their own would find that difficult, and I can see that, you know. And so is that the sort of advice that you would give to somebody who is, you know, just wanting to sort of do what you're doing, I guess, or like just start doing something new? It's just crack on with it, you know. You know,
I think sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think like me personally, it's a confidence thing with my appearance and stuff. I thought that, you know, people might start like laying into that, but then I even captioned it, you know, I'm uploading as something about trying to help people who've got depression. If the only thing you can focus on is my appearance, then that kind of says more about you than it does. Exactly. So I am an emder. I learned that in life. Slag yourself before people can slag you, and then like not necessarily slag yourself, but out them before they can even before they can even do it. But yeah, just do it. I mean, I've always wanted to do this with poetry, and I've had so many amazing experiences. I got to go on BBC Radio before. That was really it was a wonderful experience. I've got to do so much stuff that like I wouldn't have been able to do if I hadn't have always pushed forward with this. And I just think, yeah, just do it. But more and more people are doing it. Because of lockdown, it hasn't got to all necessarily be negative. So say, for example, someone's lost their job, or they're being furloughed and they've got extra time on their hands. People are doing things that they'd always wanted to do, like that seed being planted. So there's I did some work with this company called Good to Great, and they're based in Shropshire, and they help businesses to grow. So it's free. And if you wanted to set up a business, they go through this 6-week module with you and give you all the ideas. So it gives you that bit more confidence. But yeah, just do it. Like I'll just press upload on that video before I could talk myself out of it.
You helped me with that. You very encouraged me loads, because obviously we were going for the journey of becoming the CIC, which is done now. But you were like, just do it, Al. You can get all this fun, and we can do it. And I was just like, oh, bless you. That was a bit of encouragement there that I really needed. So thank you, Beth, for that. You know. Yeah, it was really cool. So what's I know you're saying that you were glad that you went into recovery before lockdown, but despite that, what's lockdown been like for you? Has it been created more art? Have you been writing loads? Have you been looking at new ways to do things? What's it been like for you?
Yeah, I've done a lot of poetry. Me and my daughter have bonded so much because, I mean, me and my daughter have always had a good relationship, but, you know, now she's got the full potential of a mommy there, and you don't realise that, you know, if you're drinking on the night, you think you're being fun and that, but then they have to deal with you when you're snappy the next day and stuff. So our relationship has just we have so much fun. She's got like this little ukulele, and I was playing like the spoon, and we make up stupid songs and do like ridiculous stuff. We got like this microphone in my old place that I lived in that had this big echo, so we just like used to shout weird things at people out the window and look down, and they'd be looking, terrorising the nation, like giving ourselves a bit of a fun. But yeah, do you know what? Like there's no point in sitting and moaning about it. I had a bit of a lull this week, but I think it's the first time I've had one in a long time because everyone's in the same boat, and it is what it is. And you can let it take you to a really dark place where you can just think, you know what, I can't change this. So what can I do to just get through it at the minute? And mine has been writing and doing things that I wouldn't have done before, like the CIC, sending off them forms and, you know, doing all the background work that you put into the bottom of a drawer and you don't really want to do. Yeah.
So where do you want this to go? Like, where's sort of like, you know, where's the next sort of 5 years going to take you in an ideal world?
So eventually I'd like to open up some kind of centre. So it's not just here, but like in Bridge North, there's a hostel. It used to be the parish rooms. It's all boarded up now because no one's took over the contract. The same was in Solihull where I live. There was 2 dormant hostels just boarded up. You've got all these homeless people on the street, people with addictions, people that need to get away from domestic violence, and you've got empty dormant places. Like, it just baffles my mind. I'm not trying to save the world, but like,
it doesn't make sense, does it? It doesn't make sense.
No,
but surely open those that one building that'll potentially save one person's life. That's worth it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? In my opinion. So yeah, I mean, so you want this to go relatively kind of on a pretty big scale. Like, I'm assuming then, would you want to open like several centres dotted around the place, maybe?
I want to do that like impact. So
One step at a time, Hinton.
No, I want to take on the world. What in China? No, joking. You know what? I haven't become like a massive feminist or anything like that because, like you said, we spoke about the men stuff. But what I have found in recovery is it's for women, especially if you're responsible for your child. So many people don't come forward because you think you're going to lose your kids. I agree with that. Yeah, women do. You know, like if you was a man and you was an alcoholic and you're going to the pub every day and you was drinking. Like, don't get me wrong, it would be frowned upon, but not as badly if a woman who had kids was doing it every week. The same said father might not. No, I'm not judging men with it. It's just we've moved forward so much compared to what we was. But just from my experience of being in recovery and the situation that I had with social services and stuff, I just felt like, you know, I got judged a lot more than Bells did.
Sure, that is. I never really thought of that before. I never thought of that before. The fact that, like, the image of, like, you know, a man kind of go to the pub every day, you know, spending 50 quid, which is bad, obviously, like, you know, spending all the family money or whatever in the pub. But it's almost like there's that kind of age-old kind of etiquette, I suppose. Of, you know, mum looks after the kids to dinner and dad goes to the pub after he finishes work. It's just like, it's the stories, isn't it? It's the books. It's, you know, it's just the way it is in media. But, you know, there's very good points. I never thought about how it looks if a mum was to be going into the pub every day. And you're right, that is it's a different light, isn't it?
And like, even from my experience with social services, when I had this big meeting and everything with them, and my daughter's dad didn't even turn up to one of them. I got absolutely hung, dried and slaughtered, was the worst person on the planet. And you know what? I held myself accountable. Like, I wasn't the best version of what I could be at the time.
No.
But they social services still don't see it as an illness. They kind of see it as a choice. But they're just protecting the child. I understand that. But anyway, further down the line, when he did end up turning up, there was no reprimands or anything like that for him. It was like they was grateful that he turned up, and it's like, well, you know.
I do feel like the pendulum's swinging a bit, though. I mean, like, when you look at like teenagers now, young people now, I think the balance is very much switched. You know, there's just as equal guys and girls. When you look at things before lockdown, you know, Magaluf, the night out on a Saturday night, you know, it's just as many girls, if probably not more, because girls they won't go out by their own. Guys probably will, you know, 2 or 3 of their mates. Girls, it's like, there's 12 of us. You know, eyebrows, all going out, looking sleek. You know, they're all going out and they're partying, but they might do that 4 or 5 times a week, you know?
Al, don't ever do that again.
No, I'm going to do it every show. That's how I'm going to end the show. I'm looking sleek, but that's the problem, isn't it? When it's fun, fun's attached to this, right? And so you're going out, you're partying, it's fun. It suddenly stops, and there's this hole in your life. Is it the fun or is it the alcohol?
Well, you know what? It's funny you should say that. My group of friends, there was about 15 of us, grew up in Birmingham. We was absolute lunatics, like literally was lunatics. And we would outdrink the men, and like groups of men would come and go because like we was out drinking them, and we was all absolutely just off our rocker. We went to our beef, like you said, we did all that kind of stuff. And these same friends, they've got good jobs and they're married and different things, but they still had the same amount of fun as what I did when I was younger. It was just with me, it progressed into an addiction. So, like I think I'm saying, I didn't mean to come across like I was being sexist in that sense. I was just saying about with the actual addiction side of things. I mean, you know what I mean?
It's interesting because I was brought up because there's addiction in my family. Obviously, I'm not going to go into specifics, but there is addiction in my family further up the generations. And it was always drilled into me growing up that, like, obviously there is addiction. Just be careful with, with alcohol, with drugs, and whatever. I smoke. I'm a smoker. And it's been a difficult thing for me to try and shift. So obviously, I'm very much aware that sort of addictive personality is in my head. It's just trying to be aware of it, and I refuse. I've given myself rules. Because of the way how it can kind of progress, which obviously, as without even noting it, it can just progress. And it's something I've been quite strict on myself. Like, for example, I don't drink on my own. That's one of my rules, is that I never drink. I don't come and sit down if my missus has gone to bed early. I'll never sit and have a drink on my own. It's just one of my rules. And I suppose it's about being aware about stuff like this. But even said, you can put all the rule sets in place. An addiction's an addiction, isn't it? And it can creep up on you.
Definitely.
I've always talked about how it's not me; it's generally talked about. I don't know why I keep bringing everything towards me, and that anything that is harmful and addictive is an addiction. I mean, pornography, alcohol, drugs, but gambling, whatever, if it's a bad vice, it needs to go. Simple as. Or moderate. My hero is Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith made the movie Clerks, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob, and he created the podcast Jay and Silent Bob Get Old to help Jason Mewes, because he was a heroin addict, and the idea of the show was to meet up once a week and be like, "Hey, are you clean?" Simple. You're going to give him drive, give him a focus, because you tell all these dirty J sex stories and get really down and get really creative with it and stuff. It gave him a bit of purpose and a bit of drive, and then he'd have all these fans all around the world go, "Jay, are you clean? Jay, are you clean?" And it would be fine. It worked for him. But he says, handle your high. Handle your high. Doesn't matter what you do. If you do it in moderation. If it starts taking control of your life, get rid of it, because it's bad for you. Easier said than done, though, right? Beth, we are running short on time. I'm really sorry. We've come up with a processing error, I've got to say, on the Open Studio today, because it takes a good 5 to 7 minutes for the audio to render. So to be ready for our next interview, I need to finish this at sort of 10 to. Do you have any poetry that you can read us today? Have you got anything with you?
I've got a quick one in front of me. I'll read if you want.
That'd be amazing. I'd love to get some of your poetry on the biscuit.
It's called A Hair of the Dog. So it's not aimed at people that just genuinely had a couple of too many beers and sat down and then have a next pint of Sunday. You'll get the gist anyway. A Hair of the Dog. At what point did it stop being one drink to another day, Rob? The waking up with the unsatisfactory hunger. You've got flashing lightning in the mind and roaring thunder that will not stop. No way can you calm this storm. And did you think of a drink before your morning yawn? Do you need it to take away the thoughts of last night's mistake? And you need to consume some vodka before your cornflake? Just one drink, though, to take the horrors away. Then before you know it, you're half a bottle deep and it's only midday. Saturdays and Sundays blend into one another, cooking the Sunday roast, washing the uniform, trying to be a good mother. And of course, you adore your child. They're worth their weight in gold. It was only going to be a hair of the dog. Well, that's how it got sold. To yourself, you had no intention of bottle watching that day. But then before you know it, the day slipped away. Chopping onions, singing to Amy Winehouse Rehab. If only you knew the irony. Nah, I haven't got a problem. No way, not me. I'm a support worker, and my role is to help others. Thinking back to last night, you take another gulp just to take away the shudders. And before you know it, you're in a cycle and it's a daily habit. You're trapped in the headlights, just like that rabbit. You want to be a better person. You just don't know how to stop this mindset thinking. So at what point did that hair of the dog become just another day drinking?
Wow.
Yeah, I got loads about it all. But hopefully someone relates and then they can think, oh yeah, I did think about vodka before my cornflakes.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I love what you do, and I love you, and I think you're amazing. I think what you do is brilliant. It took so long to get you on the biscuit, and I'm gutted by that, but we finally got you here, and you're a friend of ours now. So if there's anything we can help with, you're in Shropshire. If there's anything you're going to be working with around us or what have you, just send us any posters, any social media links that you want us to share, and we will. We'll help you every step of the way. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Beth.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it.
More than welcome.
Welcome back anytime. Shane, have you got anything to add before we get out of here?
No. I just wish you all the best. And as I say again, what Al said, if there's anything we can do, please just let us know and we'll do what we can.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think you're on something big.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Well done.
I want to give a couple of shout outs before we get out of here. Christmas coming up, obviously. I want to keep shouting out the carols on the doorstep that's happening throughout Shropshire on December the 16th and December the 24th. BBC Radio Shropshire are going to be playing Christmas carols over the radio. We were encouraging everybody to step on their doorstep and sing Christmas carols together. It started off in Shropshire around Shrewsbury, so now it's spread out fully throughout Shropshire. And I think nationally, it's gathering speed. So a bit like how people would clap on the doorstep for the NHS, we want people to do it with Christmas carols as well. So December the 16th and the 24th. Have a look at My Shrewsbury. Go on My Shrewsbury and have a look at their Facebook page and stuff. All the details are there. Also want to give a shout out to the Parade Shops, our home. We're not there at the moment, obviously, because of lockdown. But please, please continue loving them because we love them too. And we've got Dale Hintz coming on next week. Dale Hintz, the UK's best barber, is coming on our show. Another shout out goes to Chris Goff from CGR Business Solutions. He helped us become a CIC. If you're looking to do something the same, if you do need help with your business, finances, etc., Chris is the guy for you. He helped us up. He's brilliant. He's a genius. So make sure you check out CGR Solutions. Beth, you've been amazing. Shane, you're beautiful. I love you. We'll catch you next time on the Shrewsbury Biscuit.